money flows, barriers shatter, blessings multiply beyond measure. Today, a powerful truth will be unveiled, a truth that has remained hidden from many yet holds the key to unlocking God's overflow in your life. Countless souls struggle, trapped in cycles of financial stress and missed opportunities, unaware that invisible forces block the abundance destined for them. These are not ordinary obstacles, they are spiritual chains, subtle yet powerful, that choke your prosperity before it even reaches you. In this video, you will learn 3 transformative prayers that break every chain, remove every hidden barrier, and open doors to divine opportunities you never thought possible. These prayers are not empty words. They carry authority, faith, and the power to command supernatural breakthrough. Each one is a spiritual key, designed to shift the flow of God's blessings directly into your life. Stay with me until the end, because a hidden principle will be revealed, one that has the potential to shift your financial destiny instantly. This is a moment where faith meets action, where your alignment with God's will sparks tangible results. Many overlook this truth, yet those who embrace it experience not just relief, but true overflow, beyond expectation, beyond limitation. Here on Shaolin Divine Flow, we explore the secrets of spiritual empowerment, the hidden forces shaping your reality, and the divine strategies that turn prayer into results. By subscribing, you join a community dedicated to unlocking life's fullest blessings through clarity, discipline, and divine insight. Prepare to step into a new realm of abundance. Prepare to witness your prayers take root and your finances flow freely. Welcome to Shaolin Divine Flow. Subscribe now and begin the journey to God's unstoppable overflow. Stuck, trapped, overwhelmed. Money seems just out of reach, slipping through your fingers no matter how hard you try. Bills pile up, opportunities vanish, and every effort feels like running against an invisible wall. The weight of financial pressure presses down, and doubt whispers that breakthrough will never come. This is not weakness. This is not failure. Many souls walk this same path, burdened by forces they cannot see. Invisible chains hold back the blessings that are rightfully theirs. Past mistakes, unhealed wounds, fear, and unseen spiritual resistance create barriers that ordinary effort cannot overcome. Every step forward feels met with resistance, every gain seems temporary, and frustration grows quietly, almost unnoticed. Yet there is hope. Even in the midst of struggle, divine power waits to intervene. God's intention for your life is not scarcity, struggle, or limitation. He desires abundance, freedom, and overflow. What blocks your finances is not a punishment. It is an invitation to turn to a higher source, a call to release what holds you back and embrace what is ready to flow. The first step toward liberation begins in awareness. Recognizing the hidden barriers opens the door to change. Faith becomes the lever, prayer becomes the tool, and alignment with God's will becomes the pathway to breakthrough. Every burden carries a key, every challenge holds a hidden instruction, and every setback whispers a truth about the power you can unlock through belief and action. Many wait for a miracle from the outside, yet the real miracle begins inside, when you confront the blocks, speak with authority, and invite divine intervention into every corner of your life. What feels stuck today can flow freely tomorrow. What seems impossible can become your new reality, once the invisible chains are broken and God's abundance begins to move. Abundance is not a distant dream. It is not a reward for a select few. God's heart is to provide more than survival, more than mere sufficiency. He desires overflow, blessings that exceed expectation, opportunities that multiply, and favor that cannot be measured. This overflow is not limited to wealth alone. It touches every area of life, bringing peace, joy, and freedom alongside financial breakthrough. Many settle for less because they do not realize what is available. They struggle with scarcity while God's provision stands ready to flood their lives. The difference between struggle and abundance is not effort alone, it is alignment. When your heart, your words, and your actions are in harmony with divine will, prosperity flows naturally without strain. God's abundance is generous, consistent, and powerful. It does not come in drips or occasional moments. It comes as a river, unstoppable and transformative. Invisible barriers often mask this reality. Doubt, fear, past disappointments, and spiritual resistance act like locks on the doors of provision, yet the keys to those doors are within reach. Prayer, faith, and declaration release the flow that God has always intended. Each time you call upon Him with confidence, each time you align your life with His principles, you open channels for blessings to pour in. Faith is not passive, it is active trust. It moves mountains, clears obstacles, and calls forth the unseen. Opportunity begins to appear where there was none, resources arrive when there seems to be a lack, and solutions emerge in the place of problems. God's desire is to transform limitation into abundance, worry into security, and lack into overflow. Every step of obedience, every act of faith, and every prayer spoken with conviction brings you closer to the life He has prepared, a life filled with blessings that exceed expectation, flowing freely and without hindrance. Invisible forces shape more of your reality than you might realize. Spiritual blockages are real, subtle, and powerful. Doubts whisper that you are not worthy of abundance. Fear convinces you to hold back, to settle, to accept limitation as normal. Past mistakes linger like shadows, feeding guilt and hesitation that stifle growth. Even unseen spiritual resistance can weigh down your efforts, creating an invisible ceiling over what should flow freely into your life. These forces are not always apparent, but their impact is undeniable. Every missed opportunity, every financial struggle, every setback carries a spiritual dimension. It is not punishment, it is a signal that alignment is needed. God's provision is perfect, but it cannot reach you fully while unseen barriers remain in place. Recognition is the first step. Awareness that something is holding back the blessings meant for you. Once you see these blockages, the path to removing them becomes clear. Prayer becomes your tool to break free. Faith becomes your lever to shift what feels stuck. Words spoken with conviction have authority. They dismantle the chains of doubt and fear. Declaring truth over your life aligns your spirit with God's purpose, dissolving the obstacles that block divine flow. Past mistakes, once heavy, transform into lessons that strengthen your faith rather than limit your future. Spiritual resistance loses its grip when confronted with persistent belief and heartfelt prayer. The breakthrough you seek begins when you face these hidden forces, not with despair, but with determination. Recognition of these blockages does not bring fear, it brings power. Every prayer spoken, every declaration made, and every act of faith removes the invisible weights. Your finances, your opportunities, and your life begin to shift. What was once stored gains momentum. What was once blocked begins to flow. Step by step, chain by chain, the path opens, and God's abundance moves closer, ready to fill every area of your life without restraint. Faith is more than hope. It is a force that moves the unseen. Prayer is more than words. It is the key that unlocks God's intervention. When belief fuels your prayers, the spiritual realm responds. Every uttered word carries power. Every heartfelt request becomes a channel for divine action. Faith turns what seems impossible into the inevitable, and prayer aligns your spirit with the flow of God's abundance. Praying with conviction creates an atmosphere where change can occur. It is not about repetition or empty phrases. It is about speaking with authority, trusting that God hears and acts on your behalf. The more your belief grows, the more your prayers gain weight. The universe, guided by God's hand, begins to rearrange circumstances, open doors, and remove obstacles that human effort alone cannot overcome. Faith becomes the engine, prayer becomes the ignition, and divine intervention becomes the result. Persistence in prayer is crucial. Often, the breakthrough comes not in the first word spoken, but in continued, unwavering belief. Each prayer reinforces your alignment with God's will, dismantling barriers and attracting favor. Doubt cannot coexist with true faith. Fear cannot remain where belief is strong. As you pray, invisible forces shift, opportunities appear, and blessings begin to flow in ways that exceed expectation. Faith and prayer are not passive acts. They are active partnerships with God. When you speak with trust and act with obedience, You position yourself to receive what is already destined for you. Prayer becomes a bridge between limitation and overflow, between struggle and freedom. Every sincere word, spoken with faith, chips away at the resistance that holds you back, and gradually, the doors of divine provision swing open. The unseen begins to touch the seen, and what was once blocked starts to move freely, guided by the power of belief and the authority of prayer. Chains that hold your finances back are not always visible, yet their grip is real. Fear, doubt, past failures, and hidden spiritual resistance can bind your prosperity, keeping blessings at bay. To release these blockages requires decisive action through prayer and declaration. Every word spoken with authority has the power to shatter what confines you. When you call on God with clarity and belief, the invisible chains begin to break and freedom starts to flow. Release begins with recognition. You must name the barriers, confront the areas where limitation has taken root, and refuse to let them define your future. Spiritual blockages respond to courage, faith, and persistence. By speaking boldly, you activate the divine power designed to clear your path. This is not passive hope. It is active spiritual warfare, rooted in trust and obedience. Each prayer, each declaration chips away at the resistance, dismantling the obstacles that have restrained your finances. As these chains fall, new space emerges. Opportunities, favor, and provision begin to enter the areas that were once blocked. What seemed stagnant begins to move. What seemed impossible begins to take shape. God's power does not work in partial measures. When blockages are released, flow comes in abundance. The process may feel gradual at first, but every step of faith compounds, building momentum toward breakthrough. Belief amplifies the release. Speaking with conviction aligns your heart with God's will, inviting supernatural intervention into your life. Each prayer not only removes a barrier but also strengthens your connection to the source of all abundance. As resistance dissolves, clarity emerges, and the path to financial freedom becomes visible. Chains that once seemed unbreakable crumble, and divine provision begins to pour into your life. The act of releasing the blockage transforms not just circumstances, but your spirit, preparing you to receive God's overflow in ways that exceed imagination. Doors that were once closed begin to open when you call upon God with faith. Opportunities arrive in ways that surpass understanding, and connections form that redirect your path toward abundance. These are not ordinary openings. They are divine alignments, orchestrated by God to bring favor, breakthrough, and growth. When you speak with conviction and expect God's intervention, unseen pathways reveal themselves, and what was once impossible becomes achievable. Calling in opportunity begins with clarity and intention. You must declare what you are ready to receive, speak it with authority, and trust that God's timing is perfect. Each prayer acts like a key, unlocking doors that human effort cannot force open. New partnerships, unexpected promotions, financial ventures, and blessings appear when your heart is aligned with divine will. Favor follows you like a shadow, guiding circumstances toward outcomes that bless your life beyond measure. Divine doors do not always open immediately or in obvious ways. Sometimes the shift begins subtly, with small signs, gentle nudges, and quiet confirmations that lead to greater breakthroughs. Faith requires patience, persistence, and attentiveness. By continuing to pray, declaring God's promises, and maintaining readiness to act, you position yourself to step through each door as it opens. Every connection made through divine favor carries potential to transform your financial landscape. Mentors, allies, and supporters emerge at the right moment, providing insight, resources, or opportunities that would otherwise remain out of reach. God's hand directs these encounters, and your readiness to receive amplifies their impact. As each door opens, momentum builds, creating a flow of opportunity that multiplies. What was once a trickle of possibility turns into a river of progress, blessings, and abundance. Speaking these prayers with faith ensures that you are not waiting for chance. You are inviting God's design into every corner of your life, opening avenues that lead directly to the overflow He intends for you. Abundance is not meant to be measured or limited. God's overflow surpasses expectation, multiplying beyond what the mind can imagine and beyond what the heart can hold. When you pray for this divine abundance, you are inviting blessings that transform not only your finances but your entire life. This overflow is the natural result of alignment with God's will, faith that moves mountains, and prayer spoken with conviction. To receive God's overflow, you must declare it boldly. Speak with confidence that your provision is already on the way. Picture the doors of blessing swinging wide open, opportunities cascading in, and resources arriving from unexpected directions. Each word of faith is a channel through which divine abundance flows. The universe responds to belief, and God's favor amplifies every step taken in alignment with His plan. Overflow is not random. It is intentional, precise, and full of purpose, designed to meet needs, exceed expectations, and create a life of freedom and security. Receiving overflow requires openness. It demands that you remove resistance, doubt, and hesitation from your heart. Gratitude, obedience, and generosity act as magnets, drawing blessings closer and allowing them to multiply. What is sown with faith returns with exponential increase. Every prayer, every declaration, and every act of trust compounds, creating a cascade of provision that cannot be contained. When you pray for abundance beyond measure, you step into a rhythm of supernatural provision. Doors that were locked begin to swing open, opportunities multiply, and favor surrounds every effort. What once seemed scarce becomes plentiful. What once felt impossible becomes natural, and every corner of your life begins to reflect God's generosity. Overflow does not simply fill your needs, it exceeds them, creating a life of freedom, joy, and unstoppable blessing. God's abundance is alive, active, and ready, waiting for your faith to receive it fully. Speak boldly, for words carry power when spoken in faith. Declarations of God's promises transform your spirit and shift the unseen forces around you. Philippians 4:19 assures, "My God shall supply all your needs according to His riches in glory by Christ Jesus." Speak this truth with conviction, knowing that your provision is guaranteed by divine authority. Every utterance strengthens belief, dismantles doubt, and invites God's abundant supply into every area of your life. Malachi 3:10 declares, "Bring the tithes into the storehouse, and see if I will not open the windows of heaven for you and pour out blessings until there is no more need." These words are not merely scripture, they are active keys to unlock divine favor. Speaking them aloud aligns your heart with God's promises, positioning you to receive His blessings in ways that exceed human expectation. Each declaration is a bridge, connecting faith with action, belief with provision, and prayer with tangible results. Declarations of faith are not passive statements, they are acts of authority over circumstances, commanding what is rightfully yours while honoring God's will. By repeatedly affirming these promises, you reinforce your readiness to receive, creating a spiritual environment where blessings cannot be withheld. Fear and doubt lose their grip, and the invisible chains of limitation begin to fall away. Consistency in declaration matters. Daily acknowledgement of God's promises builds momentum, opening doors to favor, opportunity, and abundance. Speak with gratitude, confidence, and unwavering belief. Let your words echo the certainty that God is faithful, that He sees your need, and that His provision is abundant and unstoppable. As you declare these truths, your spirit aligns with God's purpose, your faith solidifies, and the path for His blessings flows freely, filling your life beyond measure, transforming limitation into uncontainable overflow. Faith is not complete without action. Living with faith means aligning your daily life with the principles that invite God's blessings. Generosity becomes a reflection of trust, giving not out of obligation but from a heart confident that God will provide. Each act of giving releases a spiritual current that multiplies what you receive, creating a cycle of abundance that flows freely and consistently. Obedience is the pathway that opens doors to breakthrough. Following God's guidance, even when it challenges comfort or logic, demonstrates trust and positions you to receive favor. Every decision made in alignment with His will removes obstacles, attracts opportunities, and strengthens the flow of blessings. Faith without obedience remains potential. Faith with obedience becomes unstoppable momentum. Gratitude amplifies the effects of every prayer and declaration. Recognizing what is already present in your life, expressing thankfulness, and celebrating small victories create a magnetic force that draws even greater blessings. Gratitude transforms your perspective, shifting focus from lack to provision, from fear to trust, and from limitation to possibility. It opens your heart to receive more and deepens your connection to God's abundance. Living with faith also requires vigilance and consistency. Daily practices of generosity, obedience, and gratitude reinforce spiritual alignment and cultivate an environment where God's overflow can manifest. Every act, no matter how small, signals readiness, reinforces belief, and activates divine favor. Your life becomes a testimony of God's faithfulness when faith moves beyond words into action. Each choice made in alignment with His principles strengthens your path, clears resistance, and accelerates the flow of blessings. Faith is active, living, and transformative, touching every corner of your life. By embracing these steps, you not only open yourself to financial breakthrough, but also create a foundation for lasting abundance, where God's provision flows without hindrance, and every prayer spoken in faith finds tangible expression in your life. Transformation begins the moment faith meets prayer. God sees every need, every hidden struggle, every quiet desire of your heart. He is aware of the obstacles that have held you back, the financial pressures that weigh heavily, and the opportunities that have slipped through your fingers. Nothing escapes His attention, and nothing is too small or too great for His intervention. Every prayer spoken with belief resonates in the spiritual realm, activating a response that moves mountains and shifts circumstances. Faith-filled prayer is not passive. It is an invitation for God to work, a declaration that you trust His timing, wisdom, and provision. When you pray with conviction, you align yourself with His power, and the invisible begins to touch the visible. Chains of limitation dissolve, doors of opportunity swing open, and blessings flow where they were once blocked. The very act of believing ignites change, creating momentum that transforms not just finances but every area of life affected by lack or struggle. God's response is not random. It is intentional, precise, and designed to meet your unique needs. Transformation unfolds as you continue to pray, declare, and act in faith. Each step you take in obedience, each word spoken in alignment with His promises, amplifies the flow of provision. What once felt impossible begins to feel inevitable. The struggles that seem permanent become temporary markers of growth, teaching lessons that strengthen your spirit and deepen your trust. This promise of transformation assures that your situation is not fixed by circumstance but is fluid under God's authority. He responds to faith with action, and every prayer filled with belief triggers movement toward abundance. As you embrace His power, the stagnation of the past gives way to breakthrough, your path clears, and life begins to reflect the fullness of His blessings. God's vision for you is abundance, freedom, and unstoppable overflow, ready to manifest as you continue to walk in faith. Step into this moment with hope, knowing that God's power is already at work in your life. Every prayer you have spoken, every declaration of faith, and every act of obedience has set the stage for breakthrough. Trust that abundance is flowing, chains are breaking, and doors are opening that you never thought possible. Peace replaces worry, confidence replaces doubt, and joy fills the space where struggle once lived. Receive this blessing fully. Your finances are being unblocked, your opportunities are multiplying, and God's overflow is finding its way to you. Stand firm in faith, walk boldly in obedience, and carry gratitude in your heart. Your life is being transformed, and the blessings that await you are greater than you can imagine. If this message resonates, show your support by liking this video and subscribing to Shaolin Divine Flow. Join our community of believers committed to unlocking divine abundance and walking in God's overflowing favor. Share this with others who need hope and a reminder that they too can step into breakthrough. Remember this always: abundance is your inheritance, faith is your key, and God's overflow is unstoppable. Step forward, Believe boldly and let the blessings pour. Your journey to unstoppable abundance begins now.